Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Isai and Freilich and Chanukah, of course. I thought it appropriate to connect a lot of what we've been learning to a Torah that Rav Kook writes in the Siddur. Rav Kook wrote the parish on the Siddur. Much of it was written by Rav Kook, and much of it was, at least parts of it, were put together by Rav Tzvi Yehuda from other pieces of Rav Kook's writings that he didn't write directly on the Siddur. What you have in front of you is a piece of the Siddur Oros, which of course is a pun on Rav Kook's name, Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen. That was Oros, and you'll see that it's in the Likutim because this was part of the section that was put together from other writings that Rav Tzvi Yehuda put onto the Siddur. On the bracha Asher Kiddushan V'Sasavit Zivan La'adlik Ner Chanukah or Ner Shel Chanukah. Just out of interest, by show of hands, who says La'adlik Ner Chanukah? Who says La'adlik Ner Shel Chanukah? Who says Shel Chanukah? Who says La'adlik Ner Chanukah? So this Sfardim and Mekubalim say La'adlik Ner Chanukah, not Shel Chanukah. If you take a look at all the Chabad things, so it all says La'adlik Ner Chanukah. What's the reason for that? Anybody know? Just it's connected to me where the Arizal writes that all of Chanukah, we'll see a little bit of this maybe, all of Chanukah is about revealing the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, and the first bracha has therefore 13 words in it. Has 13 words to be married the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. If you don't have the word Shel, the Shla Kodesh writes that the correct nusach is for Ashkenazim is La'adlik Ner Shel Chanukah, but the word Shel Chanukah is one word, Shel Chanukah, that which is of Chanukah. So he has both. He says that's the correct nusach. But okay, that's so as we're waiting for Chaver to come in. But nevertheless, let's talk about Chanukah. Let us talk about Chanukah. And Rav Kook is going to address some of what we were discussing last week, which is all of the tsaros, Rachmana litzlan, that the Jewish people have had to deal with as a result of having the way that we look at the world and everything that we see and say and do and hear adulterated by other societies. Specifically, Rav Kook spoke to us last week about the fact that Yiddishkeit has been adulterated by Christianity and that the return to heresy is something of value. But Rahman al-Islam, what we have seen in the last week is when they say globalize the Intifada, we know what this means. We see it everywhere. It has nothing to do with Zionism. It has nothing to do with Palestinians. It's Jews. It's Jews. Jews being Jewish. So, Jews being Jewish, doing Jewish things, that's what they're talking about. And there is something, and we're going to discuss this here, to a certain extent, Chanukah is the response to globalize the Intifada. Meaning what the Chashmonaim would say to the jihadist from Bondi. That's what we're going to take a look at today. And Rav Kook is going to ask a strange question. I'll put this question into your minds already now. We'll see how this develops. The word Chanukah is a very peculiar word. What's the shorish of the word Chanukah? Chinuch. Chinuch. And then we have to figure out what the difference is between the word Chinuch and the word Chanukah. Because why not call the Yantif Chinuch? That'd be a good word. It's a nice word. Why not call it Chinuch? Why do we call it Chanukah? And the truth is that even calling it Chanukah is a shtickle stira minei ubei. It's an internal contradiction. So let's try to understand why and what is going on here. And what the response is of the Chashmonaim and of Rav Kook and of Klal Yisrael to the Jihadis Yamach Shemam V'Zichram. If you take a look at the page that you have in front of you, the paragraph that begins with the word Chanukah, which is in the bottom half of the page, Taf Ayin. You'll see in the middle of the page there it says the word Chanukah. So he writes, Chanukah lehachnasa b'inyan mechudesh masmid yomer b'lashon hakodesh chinuch. chanach lenar. In order to introduce something new, we use the word chinuch. A dedication, a consecration, a new beginning, that's called chinuch. To create something new. And therefore, sometimes we have a person has a dedication ceremony for a new home called the chinuch habayis. We've got some extra sheets over here. What is the difference between a chinuch habayis and chanukas habayis? It says we should call it chinuch habayis and not Chanukah. The word is chinuch. It says omnam erech hachinuchu. And let's understand what chinuch is. This is, we could bring just on Rav Kook's definition of chinuch. That is the preamble to what he's going to get to about Chanukah. Suffice it to say that there's a lot to understand here. The word chinuch means, the third line here, shehu mashpia al yeser hashanim shel gadlus. Chinuch is the action that you do now that creates an everlasting effect as the child grows. Shari ein yadua lanu ad kama tagia pa'ulasai shel hachinuch. You don't know how far your chinuch is going to go. Take a kid, you educate him. Then he leaves your class, he graduates, he moves on. What happens next? You don't know. I'll tell you, as a Rebbe, I've had the incredible schus and the incredible nachas of having talmidim that I see now 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later coming and telling me, you made an impact on my life. You don't know how far your chinuch goes. Chinuch is the thing that you do now that creates an impact into the future. You don't know how this is going to impact, how it's going to affect. All good habits, all of these positive activities are going to be helpful to make sure that the child becomes who they need to become. Das steht chinuch. To appropriately educate the child that they are going to be impacted and influenced in the correct way and become what they need to become. And therefore chinuch is that thing which affects the future. And now here's the key word. Chinuch now is not affected by the result in the future. And I would argue, what Rav Kook is telling us now, is that good chinuch is present tense oriented, not future tense oriented. Which is exactly what Shlomo Melech is telling us in Chanoich Lenar al Pi Darkei. Educate the kid according to what he is. Meaning, what's the correct thing to teach the child now? Good parents, good teachers, good educators know that the goal isn't future-oriented, it's current-oriented. If you do the right thing by the child now, they'll grow into what they need to become. But every now and then, I'll give a silly example, but something that you'll be familiar with. Every now and then, you'll have a kid that's a little bit of a wilde chaya, be, jumping off the walls in second grade. And the Rebbe is like nervous that he's not going to become a Talmid Chacham when he's 25. So he like yells at him, like, you're not going to be a Talmid Chacham by the time you're 25 because you're jumping up. Forget what you're going to be when you, right now you have to be what you need to be now. And if you are what you need to be now, if you become what you need to be now, then you'll turn into what you need to be then. Like you yell at a little girl that's like picking her nose in kindergarten. You'll never get married if you pick your nose. She'll get married. That's the... Leave her alone. She's in kindergarten. She'll pick her nose now and she'll grow up later. But if you put the pressures of being, the future now, so then now you have to... Okay. The point that Rav Kook is making here is that chinuch means you do the thing now for the future, but the future doesn't impact the now. The now impacts the future. That's called chinuch. Ve'ein pa'ulas haschalasai balas metzias melea be'atzma. But also, this activity now doesn't have the fullest extent of its meaning. Because you'll only really understand this thing now in the future. Right? If you do what you're supposed to do now, then in the future you'll see how it worked. You put a seed in the ground now. What do you need to do for that seed now? You have to water it. You have to make sure that the sapling grows, that it's protected, that it's nurtured, that it's not. If you do all of those things, so when you have a tree later in the future, you'll be able to see that the work that you did now was good. She says, Al Kain Yomar, Chinuch Belashon Zachar Pa'al Mashpia. And therefore the word chinuch is Lashon Zachar, is in the masculine tense. The word chinuch is, lechanech is to educate, it is a masculine verb. Chanoich lenara pidarkai. The word chinuch is, Belashon Zachar means mashpia. In Hebrew we have gendered verbs. There are certain activities that are mashpia, that give over, and there are certain verbs that are mekabel, that receive. In the lashon of not just the mekabalim, but explained extensively by the mekabalim, in every relationship there's a mashpia and a mekabel. There's a giver and there's a taker. In every relationship. Sometimes a person is acting as the mashpia, sometimes a person is acting as mekabel. In the world of chinuch, chinuch is to be mashpia. And therefore it is in the lashon of zachar. Which makes it all the more peculiar that we have this Yom Tov that we are celebrating now called Chanukah. Chanukah is chinuch b'lashon nekeva. What does that mean? You understand the kasha? That's what he's asking. He's saying the word chinuch is, by definition, it is that thing which creates a reality on the ground now that is going to impact the future. That's called chinuch. You're doing stuff now that's going to change what is later. It's not affected by later. It is purely giving of the now. But Chanukah tells us something very different, says Rav Kook. Aval Beis HaMikdash, but the Beis HaMikdash, Asher La'olam Zois Al Yishol, which Pasuk says in Divrei Yomim, is La'olam Zois Al Yishol, is a forever reality of the Jewish people. The Beis HaMikdash is a permanent construct within the Jewish people. Haloihu Makom Oros Shel Olam, it is the place of the light of the world, V'koyach HaPe'ula Gdola, and the greatest actor of all, and greatest activity of all, she'asid hu la'asos ba'olam gam be'asid hayoser rachok, which it will eventually be. There is no doubt in any of our minds that there will one day be a Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. Correct? That is not a hope and a prayer and a yearning, as much as it is an eventuality. It's a reality. It's a thing that is going to happen. Meaning, from now until the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, we don't know how many pages and chapters there are. But we know that if you flip to the end of the book, we know that the end of the book says Beis HaMikdash. Correct? It's an eventuality. It's a reality. There's nothing to question. It's going to happen. Whether we'll be there to see it or not, I don't know. Whether it'll be today, tomorrow, we hope it's today. Meheri b'nei Beis HaMikdash, like you have all of a Shas. We're yearning that Mashiach should come now. But that there will be a Mashiach, that there will be a Pashat. That's not the question. It's a question of when. Meaning, we don't know how many pages or chapters or how far we have to scroll before we get there, but it's going to happen. And if it's going to happen already, so that thing which is already going to happen, Chazal tell us that the Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi is already there in Shemaim. Right? What means that? That means that there's a building that is up in heaven that's... Take a look at the Aruch LaNer, by the way, in Sukkah Memhei. Machlokes Rashi and Rambam, whether or not the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built biyadayim or it's going to come Beis Hamikdash Shalesh. So Rashi based on the Midrash tells us that it's going to come down Beish, right? And the Rambam says that no, we're going to build it. It's going to be built. Says the Aruch LaNer, both of them are true. We are going to build it, and it's also going to come down Eish Min HaShamayim. How does that make any sense? Says the Aruch LaNer, it will be like Neshama B'Soich HaGuf. The Neshama of the Beis Hamikdash is Beis Hamikdash Shalesh. It's already there, ready in Shamayim. It's ready. And we'll build the Guf, and then it'll come down. And so he says, it's not a steer. Take a look. Mem Hey and Rebbeis, if I'm not mistaken, Masechah Sukkah. Says Rav Kook as follows. Halayu Makim Arish Alaylam. We saw, he says, Kfarhu Gomer V'Aruch Mirash. The Beis Hamikdash is already Gomer, it's completed, V'Aruch Mirash, it's already prepared. Min Advarim Shenivru Kaidim Shenivru Ha'olam. The Beis Hamikdash is of the things that were created before the world was created, like the pasuk says, Maroim Mirishan Makim Mikdashenu. The Beis Hamikdash is already prepared from the beginning of Bris Ha'olam. From the beginning of Bris Ha'olam. Like the Rambam writes, if you take a look at the beginning of Hilchos Beis Bechira, the Rambam writes that the Makim HaMizbech is Mechuven B'Yoser. The place of the Mizbech is Mechuven B'Yoser. That is where the offer that the ground was taken to form the body of Adam HaRishon. And that's the Makom HaMizbech. And the Rambam writes that the Aron Kodesh in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, sat upon the Evan HaShasiyah. Says the Rambam from the Gemara in Yuma, Shemimenu Hushtas Olam, that the whole world came from there. Meaning, that place was very Mechuv Mirash. The Beis Hamikdash is always, that's part of the blueprint of the universe. That's part of the system. And if that's true, as it is, he says, Al Kain, Ba'aschalas Yesoidai Kvar Hunchu Vehuchnu Bai Kol Advarim Agdalim. Therefore, in the foundation and in the preparation of it is all of these great things. Shu asid lehismale bahem bizman hayos meuchar, that will eventually fill in at a time that comes about later. But we haven't managed to actualize it, to bring out that potential into reality yet. It hasn't happened yet. Meaning it's there, the potential is there. It's all there within the seed of the world, is to sprout the Beis Hamikdash. That is the natural reality of the world. The whole world came from there. The Beis Hamikdash is also going to come back there. It is not a plan, it's a truth. It's going to happen. It's not like somebody can thwart it. It's impossible. It's the thing that is absolutely going to happen. It's a definite reality. V'al Kain yavoyu hazmanim habayim veyimalu es asher haya bekach as chalasai rishana. And therefore, the times that come are all going to fill in that potential that was already there from the beginning. V'im Kain, and if this is true, this is the key point. Is that the first times, the first occasions of the Beis Hamikdash have no impact on the eventuality of its future. It makes no difference. Because all of it is already prepared from the beginning. And that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created is going to be forever. Rather, the future impacts the present. Now, hidden inside of this is a debate that has raged between us and the Christians for a very, very, very long time. about a pasuk in the Navi Zechariah. Pasuk says, Gadol yeh habayis hazeh ha'achron min harishon. That this bayis ha'achron will be greater than the rishon. What does that pasuk talk about? So Rashi says on that pasuk that the second Beis Hamikdash will be greater than the first Beis Hamikdash, in that it lasted for 10 more years. Second Beis Hamikdash lasted for 420 years. First Beis Hamikdash lasted for 410 years. In the Vikuach of the Ramban with Pablo Cristiani, which is the reason that the Ramban ended up fleeing from Spain and ended up in Eretz Yisrael, v'chule v'chule. Pablo Cristiani asks him, in front of King James of Aragon, one of the primary tainas of the church, is Gadol yeh habayis ha'achron min harishon, that this bayis ha'achron, which means the second bayis, what does achron mean? Last. Will be greater than the first. Which means, say the Christians, that the nevuah of a future Beis Hamikdash is all true, but it's already happened. And now there are no more nevuahs. Meaning, Hashem's promise to the Jewish people is now over. Because Hashem promised that the Jewish people would have another Beis Hamikdash, and they did. So the Ramban responds, Bubali, you don't know how to read Hebrew. Because if you would have read the parasha 2 weeks ago, you would have seen that Yaakov Avinu places when meeting Esav, places the Bnei Hashvachos in front of Esav. Leah v'yaladeha acharonim, v'Rachel v'Yosef acharonim. What does the word acharon mean? Last or latter. It just means the thing that comes after the first. The word acharon doesn't mean final. Acharon means the next one. Acher, from the word acher, the other one. Does that mean that there will only be 2 Batei Mikdash? Says the Ramban, obviously not. Gadol yeh habayis ha'achron min harishon, that this latter Beis Hamikdash will be greater than the first one. But Rav Kook is being mamik here further. Rav Kook is saying that the hanacha, that there is a possibility that there will not be another Beis Hamikdash, is fundamentally, functionally impossible. You know why? Because Beis Hamikdash is miteva habriya. The creation of the world necessitates the reality of Beis Hamikdash. It is part and parcel of existence. The fact that it isn't there now is a travesty, but it's a temporary travesty. It will eventually be different. There will be a Beis Hamikdash. It's going to happen. It's simply a question of when. But that we're going to scroll to the end of the Sefer and we're going to see there's a Beis Hamikdash Pashat. It's not a shaila, it's a reality. So the argument that there was a Beis Hamikdash and was destroyed and Yiddishkeit is verfallen, the whole thing is over, and now Hashem has chosen another people, v'chule v'chule, all of that is nonsense. There's no way that it could be true, because the teva of the Bria is that there will be a Beis Hamikdash. There's an Evan Shesiyah. There's a Makam HaMizbeach. These things are realities. None of that can change. And therefore, says Rav Kook, the fact that the first Beis Hamikdash failed, and the fact that the second Beis Hamikdash failed, mean nothing vis-a-vis the eventuality that there will be a permanent Beis Hamikdash that will be there forever. Meaning, the present failure has no impact on the future success. And here comes his chiddush. He says, Elas shazmanim, second to last line on page Tafayin. Elas shazmanim haboy mashpim boy al azman harishon. Kolay memalin es mashen osam bekach bas chalasay rishona. V'lo yihaya efshar az latzeis, turn over the page, el apol. The reality is that as opposed to chinuch, which is you do an activity now in order to create an impact on the future, when it comes to our pu'ulas in order to bring about the Beis HaMikdash, it works in the opposite direction. The Beis HaMikdash is a reality of the future that we are trying to bring about in the present. Meaning, what we are doing is the opposite. We are not trying to make the present impact the future. We are trying to bring the future into the present. The future is the thing which is 100% true. The present, it's a question. When about it's going to be in the present? In the future, it's for sure going to be there. It says, Al kein nikras haschalas pa'ulas Chanukah. And therefore the beginning of it is called Chanukah. Chanukah is Lashon Nekeva. It is that the present is being mekabel from the future. You're not trying to impact the future, you're trying to impact the present from the future. You are drawing from the future into the now. Kalaimar. Mushpas mikayach kol ha'asir aniskav tamid. What we are drawing from is the impact of the eternal future, which is always elevated, which is always transcendent. Shekol ma'asher yehi bedar achar migilu or Hashem chvayda al yidei habayis hanachan ve'hanase asher yinaru alav kol hagayim hu kvar aruch bizman haschala harishona. That which will be in the future, when the world will be filled with the light of Hashem. And like the pasuk says in Yeshayahu Navi, Naru alav kol hagayim, that the whole world, all of the nations of the world are going to recognize and realize the truth and the grandeur and the importance of the Mikdash. Hukvar aruch bizman haschala harishona, it's already being prepared now at the beginning of it. Shemitoch kach nikvas by kedusha elyona. And because of that, there is already a Kedusha Elyona that's present in it now. And this is the Amka, says Rav Kook, of what Avram Avinu says after the Akedah. He names the mountain Hashem Yera'eh. Hashem will be perceived. Asher Yamer Hayom Behar Hashem Yera'eh. That it will be said about it, today Behar Hashem Yera'eh. On this mountain Hashem will be perceived. Meaning Avram Avinu is saying that this mountain is by definition future-oriented. They will say about today that Hashem is perceived in the future. Only in the future will we realize that which happened now. But the activities that are happening now are bringing about a future which is an eventuality that is absolutely 100% certain. Zois menuchasi ad the pasuk in Tehillim. This is my menucha forever, Hashem says. This is what's going to be. Umitoich she'ikimas bechol tzivyon kach ha'kedosha shel ha'asad ha'rochik ha'shalom ha'dachlis. And since this is all coming about as a result of that power, that strength which is future-oriented, gam be'etzim yemei ha'yirida v'ha'alama, even in the days that are going downwards and that everything seems so hidden, lo yuchlu zorim v'roi goyim lechabos oirot legamre. Those that are trying to destroy us, the strangers and the evil ones amongst the nations of the world, could never extinguish that eternal light that is absolutely going to burn forever. Kisham adir lanu Hashem Elokeinu, because that is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so powerful for us. Ir oiz lanu Yeshua yashis chomes v'chayil. It's a city of strength and of power. Meaning, what we are doing on Hanukkah is not trying to remember what we did once upon a time. What we are trying to do is to do something that doesn't relate to now, it relates to the future. Which is why the Mekubalim explain, you see this in all the Hasidic Sfarim, that the Lamed Vav Neiros that we learn on Hanukkah, the 36 Neiros that we learn on Hanukkah, is to be meramis to the Or of Sheshim Bereshis, to that light that was original, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal at the end of time. Practically speaking, says Rav Kook, Hanukkah means not that we are preparing for the future, but that we are borrowing from the future. It's the other way around. And that, my dear sweet and holy friends, is the response to the Jihadis Yimach Shemam and the anti-Semitic Yimach Shemam, we know something they don't know. And that is, we know what the end of the book is. That's it. Yeah, they try. Never. But we know what the end is going to be. It's just a question of how. And a question of when. But that it's going to happen, Pashut. Where it's going to happen, Pashut. That we, the Jewish people, are going to be there, Pashut. And the attempt is, during Hanukkah, is to be mamaher that. If we'd be megala a little bit more of that, now, so if we could do that now, so then we can, Hanukkah means preparing the present from the future. It's the opposite way. Just that it's not that we're trying to impact the future. The future is already glat. We're trying to bring the future into the present. We should be zeicher to it. Freilich Chanukah.